released a video on Thursday where I said this word.
Mnemonic.
This is one of those things that happens when you're a reader and you just read words and you just never have a case to use them in real life, so you just don't find out until you're like 26 years old that you've been saying mnemonic the entire time. Hey, what's up? Hello, welcome back to Lit Life with Miranda Reads. Today we're going to be going over the books I read in May, and that's around 30 or so books, which is a little bit more than usual, so we just have to jump in there and get through those. I did read one more book in April that I did not include in my reading vlog, and it was called Wild Sex. I didn't include it because the internet can be weird and creepy, and I figured having a book literally called Wild Sex would be the worst of both words. However, I am committed to being honest, and this is a book I read. Before you get all like in a tizzy about it, it's literally about how animals go through courtship, through mating, a little bit of child rearing as well. And in all honesty, I thought it was interesting. Bugs get creative, hyena women deserve a medal. and it was interesting to see like how complicated things get. It was never something that was like overly graphic or anything like that. I would say this one exceeded expectations. So I also read The Wilder Girls, and whew, that one was wild. So for The Wilder Girls, we have an all-girls school. They've been isolated on an island for a couple of years now because of the tox. And the tox is something that's been happening to all of the teachers and to all of the students, and no one really knows what it is, only that it's very bad and there's really no way to stop it. One of the girls who would normally brave the walls, like they go outside of the grounds into the forest for supplies, decides that she no longer can handle it. And our main character is the one who goes in her place. And then as she starts to leave their school, there's more and more that starts to happen, and then I don't want to give it away, but it gets really interesting how this world is set up. Now, I was really annoyed by the ending because it set up so many amazing things, and then the ending just kind of like snapped it for me. So for the entire book, it was pretty much outstanding, and the ending brought it back down to dreadful. So I'm gonna put this on as exceeds expectations. But now that I think about it, if I put that at exceeds expectations, then the Wild Sex book would probably be more of an acceptable, because it was interesting, but wasn't engaging like The Wilder Girls was. I have another animal book, and it's just this woman who has a kind of like an animal sanctuary almost, and she has all these animals, and she just goes through different stories with them. And for that book, it was alright. It felt a little bit preachy, felt a little bit coincidency, but other than that, it was an okay read. Next up is We Bought a Zoo. So this is the book that the movie was based off of. I watched the movie first, and because I watched the movie first, I strongly feel like I was influenced by the movie, so my expectations were really high. And when I read the book and the book wasn't quite like the movie, I was upset, I was a little bit disappointed. I was expecting this wonderful, like kind of like centralized family story, and we get a little bit more DIY and how to actually take a dilapidated zoo and then bring it back up. So because of that, I honestly would put this at acceptable. It was an interesting book. As far as me going in for a reread, probably not. So the next one we have is Rainbow Rowell's Wayward Son, which is the sequel to Carry On, and I loved Carry On. We focus on Simon Snow and a vampire named Baz. It's a very much like a Harry Potter rewrite, but what if Harry and Draco end up together after all? Rainbow Rowell Wayward Son was not what I expected at all. The book really focused on just bumming around America trying to save Agatha. When I read the reviews online, people were really annoyed with it. They were mad that it didn't have like a big bad, it didn't have an overarching theme. Why do you make this so difficult? But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was a good diversion. I would say it was outstanding. I love the relationship between Baz and Simon, and that was just further emphasized by this one. So next up we have Two Can Keep a Secret. Now for this one, I read this author's first book, which was One of Us is Lying. One of Us is Lying is part of a series, and I saw that she wrote Two Can Keep a Secret, and I was like, bam, I found the second book. Turns out, no, that's a standalone. So One of Us is Lying is book 1, Two Can Keep a Secret is a completely separate book. It was okay. I mean, I really don't remember that much from it other than I enjoyed it. We follow a couple of twins, there's some mystery going on about a serial killer who may or may not have come back to town. A girl goes missing and they start to have to try and piece things together. So all in all, I would say that one exceeded expectations. So in this book, we have our main character and she's waiting for her Tom Hanks. She loves rom-com movies, she loves romance movies, and she's waiting for the kind of guy that Tom Hanks plays in the movies to stumble into her life. Meanwhile, there's a rom-com happening in her own hometown, and she ends up getting a job on set, and you can immediately tell like where the love interest is going to go. And this one was, honestly, it wasn't acceptable for most of the book. Normally I don't talk about spoilers in a book, but when it's something like so completely ruined my enjoyment of it that it just kind of eclipsed my impression of the book, I feel like that does belong in the review. So at the end of waiting for Tom Hanks, she sleeps with the actor guy. I mean, like, we all saw that coming, and she ends up taking a picture of him naked and accidentally sending it to the media, and with a comment about his circumcision. I had a hard time getting over that because she never once really talks about like the seriousness of that, and that to do that to your potential lover, potential relationship, to take a naked photo of them and then have it sent out so it can be plastered everywhere in the media. It is such a huge violation of trust, of everything that goes into a relationship, and she plays it off as like this, whoops, I'm sorry, and all of her friends are like, he'll totally forgive you, you're such a great catch. It really rubbed me the wrong way. Because of that, I kind of threw up my hands at this book. I don't think I'll be going back for the sequel, and it's honestly, it's going down to troll because of that. I just so mad. We have Time for Vengeance, 5th book in the Displacer series. Can live out different lives and do all kinds of different things. There's a mole in their secret organization, and they figure out who it is, and like this whole book is like trying to catch up and stop it before it gets too bad. So I quite like this one. I would say it exceeded expectations. It's the 5th book in the series, but I'm still here. I also think this is going to be the last one, which is a little bit disappointing, but all in all, very good. So The Hate You Give is a book where our main character, she's black, she gets pulled over by the police with one of her best friends from childhood. The police officer sees a gun, which is actually just a hairbrush. He ends up shooting her friend in front of her. And she has to decide whether or not she's going to speak out against the police brutality, the police violence, or if she's going to listen to what all of her friends and family say, and that's just to let him win, essentially. And it's just such a powerful and such a moving book. And honestly, one of the best ways for me to learn about something that I might not know much about is to read books from other people's perspectives. And especially with the way the political climate is going on, I feel like so many more people need to be making an effort to read books like these and really try and educate themselves about things that they might not have considered earlier. So I honestly cannot recommend this one enough. Definitely, I would say pick it up right now and read it. It is so good. Remember those emails or those letters you used to get back in the day, like make a copy, send this to 10 people, otherwise you'll die at midnight. So this kind of takes that concept but makes it real life. So our main character, she gets a call on her way to work that her daughter has been kidnapped. and unless she pays a ransom and kidnaps another child, she'll never see her daughter again, thus propagating the chain. And it's a really interesting concept, and it was really like gripping for the first few chapters. Well, actually, I would say even up to like halfway through the book. I was really invested in this. I was really curious how it was going to play out. But around midway, it just kind of started to lose its fizzle. And the more it went on, the more flaws I kept seeing in the system, and the more frustrated I got with the main character's activities and actions. So because of that, I honestly would say poor. So we have The Strange Ones, and that was part of the book club that Tucker, the reader, and I are running. We were trying to do a comic/graphic novel for May, and that one looked really interesting. I really liked the idea of it, and it kind of fizzled for me. We have two supposedly very, very weird main characters that just kind of click when they're together. But this book ended up going in a completely left field from where I thought it was going to go. And it ended up being a little bit, I honestly would say, disappointing. It wasn't my favorite ending for a book, and I really was not happy with the direction it took. And I will say that the art for this one was very nicely done, but I just kept expecting more, and more was never delivered. I would say poor. This is 15 strong women. These are women that history overlooked or history forgot, and we're talking about their lives and their impact. It was really well done. I would say between these two, I think the illustrations really just made it pop up to outstanding. It was really well done, and I also really loved learning about these women. Most of them were minorities, most of them I've never heard of, and I absolutely loved how the author wrote it. So I definitely would recommend it. It is so much fun. I have yet to read a Pride and Prejudice retelling that I have loved, and this one was no exception. So in this book we have Zuri, and she is our Elizabeth. We have Zuri's wild and crazy family, Mr. Darcy's rich family, etc., etc. I thought I was going to love it, but honestly, I really hated the main character. So belligerent and so annoying that the Mr. Darcy of this story, I'm like, you could do so much better. You deserve so much better. I don't know. And then when I looked on Goodreads, like everyone was kind of saying the same thing. So at least I don't feel alone in this boat. So because of that, I'm popping this one down at poor as well. Next up, we have Pets on the Couch. And this is about the psychiatry of pets. We are following cases that a vet has dealt with over his life. He draws a lot of parallels between human disorders and what he sees in animals. He talks about anxiety, depression, testosterone imbalances, mood disorders, all kinds of different things that a lot of humans don't believe animals can have. But it was really interesting to read. And he says, like, of course I can never 100% diagnose these, but if the animal is exhibiting very similar signs to what we would see for a human disorder, and if we see the animal improve in symptoms after we treat them with the medication we would treat the human disorder with, he feels like that's a very strong argument for like they are suffering from these diseases or these disorders. Alright, so next up we have the Misfit Midwinter. This one does is more of like a side story / addition to this, and all in all, I quite liked it. I thought it was a very good addition to this series. It has a really great development of the two main characters. It's the first time where the relationship really is given a lot of page time, and I really appreciated that in the book. So I'm putting it up at exceeds expectations. Next up we have Jane Goodall, and this is a shorter biography books for new beginners, and it focuses on Jane Goodall's life and then how she started to transform the world of animal biology by giving animals like names and personalities and thoughts and feelings. And a lot of the times at the beginning she was ridiculed for it, but in the end her research spoke for herself, and all in all, this book, I would say it's outstanding. It is a children's biography book, but I loved it. The illustrations were gorgeous. It was such a wonderful book. Jake the Fake. And as I said last month, I'm slowly making my way through all the books written by people in The Office. And this one's written by Craig Robinson, and he's the one who plays Daryl in The Office. This is all about a kid who gets to go to a gifted school, except for he kind of fakes his way in. He can play piano very well, but only one song. So now that he made it to this incredibly gifted school where his sister has been for like the last few years, he needs to figure out how to fake it for the rest of his time there. I absolutely loved it. The illustrations were gorgeous. It was a really cute book, and it was way more than what I thought I was going to go into. So I'm going to pop this one up at Exceeds Expectations. I'm looking for more books in the LGBTQ plus community. And I've written that on a few reviews where I'm like saying like, hey, I read this one, I liked it, could you suggest some more? And Jana actually sent this one to me, and she said like this was a great example of a non-binary book. And it's definitely something that I don't feel like I know enough to really talk about. And one of the ways that I try and educate myself is just by reading a lot of books with characters who are non-binary or are the thing that I'm trying to learn about. So I wish you all the best. Focuses on Benji. So he comes out to his parents as non-binary, and as soon as he comes out, he wants to switch his pronouns to they and them. Now that they have come out, their parents threw Benji out of the house. And poor Benji has to call up their sister and try and figure out how to survive senior year, how to survive now that their lifeline of parents that are supposed to love you no matter what has just been severed. And I don't read too many contemporary books, but this one I would say was stunning. And it really does a great job for someone who really didn't know that much about it, other than like a few things I've read online. It really does a great job of including you in someone else's journey. So next up we have Infinity Sun. And okay, so this is one that I've been seeing everywhere on Goodreads for like the longest time, and not for the best reasons. I haven't read anything else by this author, so this is going to be my first one. Emil and Brighton are twins. They live in a world full of celestials, phoenixes, people that can consume magic and then use it for themselves. And it's like a very complicated world that you're kind of thrown into. And at the beginning, I loved it. I absolutely loved that Emil was gay, but it wasn't a thing. Like, I get that having coming out stories are important and that they need to be told, but I feel like also just as important is you just need a gay character running off and doing adventures. No thought to the coming out, no thought to like being accepted, just literally gay and then also having adventures. So I did absolutely love that aspect of Infinity Sun. And up until the 100-page mark, I was feeling this story. It was essentially like a contemporary book with a little bit of like superpower bits thrown in. However, the longer the book went on, the less it felt fleshed out. There was so much thrown in there, but not enough world building, to be honest. And because of that, the longer the book went on, the more and more plot holes that formed, the more and more characters started falling through the cracks. It got to the point where like somebody got killed off in the book, and I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to remember them anymore. So keeping that in mind, the beginning of the book honestly was that exceeds expectations, but then it just started going down, and honestly, I would say it was dreadful. It's definitely not something I'd be going back to. I don't even know if I would want to hit the sequel with that one. House of Ash and Brimstone, and it's all about the main character and demons and circuses and so much more. I ended up quite liking it. The main character was very feisty, and then the love interest was kind of like that stoic, but like in a good way stoic. So like I loved it. It was so much fun. I'm definitely putting that one up. It exceeds expectations. Next up we have the Underground Toy Society and the Annual Toy Drive, as well as the Underground Toy Society Halloween Scare. Now this book is written by an adult but illustrated by younger kids, and it ended up being really cute. The Underground Toy Society, that one is all about these toys that aren't being played with. They're alone and they're kind of lonely. They decide that they want to go to a toy drive and go to some kids who might want them. However, they're used toys, so they're kind of old, they're kind of dirty, and there's no one who would want to take them in. Until the toys get an idea and decide to spruce things up a bit. So this one is extremely short. It is a picture book, but it was really cute and I loved the message. So I'm gonna put that up and it exceeds expectations. Then we have, this is like the Christmas one. Then we also have the Underground Toy Society Halloween Scare. That one is focusing on Halloween-y stuff, and it's like the toys going on another adventure. And I think it was really cute as well. Both of these books are really adorable picture books, and I love that it is a family project to get these books out there. And I think that's just a wonderful thing to have as a family, being able to publish books together. Furyborn. I was lost. Like, I was so lost by this book. We followed two storylines, and one is the Blood Queen and one is the Light Queen, I think. Green ball. They're separated by 1,000 years, and one is the ancestor of the other. And you follow both lives simultaneously, and you try and piece together what happened to the world and during the events. Honestly, this one, I put it down as dreadful. It's a long book, and it's not long for a reason. I literally couldn't even tell that they were 1,000 years apart. I just knew that there was some sort of time difference, and it took me until like the last few pages to realize that one of the characters was dead in the current timeline. And it wasn't even until the review that I figured out that they were separated by 1,000 years. A part of it could be because I listened to the audiobook and I just didn't pick up on that. But I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I normally am able to pick things up pretty well. Don't Call the Wolf, and this is a Polish themed tale. And we have a girl who can shapeshift into a lynx, and she's the queen of the forest. We have a man among the wolf lords. They used to live near the mountain inside the forest and would hunt dragons and protect the kingdom. However, there was something that happened about, I'd say like a decade ago, maybe a little bit more, that killed almost all of the people. There's monsters everywhere, and the wolf lords decided to flee. They left the mountain, and they've been out in the real world taking care of the demons and the creatures ever since. Now, this book was really good. It gave me some serious Witcher vibes with the creatures and the way they were fought, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait to see what this author writes next. It was really, really good. Celtic Mythology. This is a mythology book all about Celtic legends, heroes, and the love stories, etc., etc. I think it was good. Now, the style of writing is a little bit of older style. They've got that old-timey fairy tale feel. So that was alright. And I feel like because I do enjoy mythology books, that immediately pops it up as it exceeds expectations. So next up we have author branding. I'm always very curious about these books because I get sent a ton of self-published books. I think it was like we're approaching 200 in the last couple of years alone. And I really feel like this one is a very good job of like laying out what the authors need to be aware of, what they need to focus on, etc., etc. I'll put that up as it exceeds expectations. I thought it was a very entertaining read. All Your Twisted Secrets. We have a bunch of main characters. They're teenagers. They're locked in a room. There's no hope for anyone coming in to save them. And they're just given a note saying that if you murder someone, I'll let you out. And the whole book is within like that hour of them having to make a decision. Plus there were a ton of flashbacks. Flashbacks did get a little bit overwhelming to me at times. So much that I would kind of start to forget what was happening in present time. And that's kind of what kept it from being outstanding. It was a very interesting book, and I did quite like it though. Alexander Hamilton. And this is a children's history book of Alexander Hamilton. I would say this one exceeded expectations. It was very well illustrated. It was very well done. It was interesting, and this is also part of that same series where it's biography books for beginners, so it's a very short read, but also a very entertaining read. Other People's Houses follows 4 families. and you just kind of like peek into their lives. So I love the ability just to like kind of like look at them and see what they're doing. One family has a missing mother, another family, the mother is cheating, a third family, the teenager is rebelling, and it kind of goes through that as that they each sort out their lives, and all these neighbors overlap with each other. But honestly, I would put it as acceptable. It was an entertaining read, and I will give you that. But I was never like fully drawn to it. I did like how they had ordinary people doing ordinary things, but I feel like I just didn't like enough of the characters to really make me sink into it. So Geekerella is one of the couple of books that I began reading at the end of April. This one was kind of my in-between book. And this is a Cinderella retelling, but in this case we have a geek who loves this, it's kind of like a Star Wars-y, Star Trek-y sort of series, probably closest to Firefly. And her dad was a huge fan, her mom was a huge fan. Her dad and her mom founded a con, so like the actor who is set to play the teenage reboot of her favorite series accidentally texts her. She doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know that she's the daughter of the guy who made the con for this series. And the two of them just start texting and they slowly come closer to closer. She decides that she has to go to the con, and typical Cinderella things happen. Right from the start, I would say it exceeded expectations, but yeah, I'm gonna put it up at outstanding. It was so much fun. Next up is Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. Now, if you guys remember what happened last time, I was not handling it well. I was not handling it well at all. Up until like the first 300 pages of this 800-page book, it was between poor and dreadful. There were definitely bits that I liked, but it was so complicated, and even now I still don't understand like everything that's going on in this world. But once we started hitting that 400, that 500 mark, it really picked up. And then honestly, the ending was outstanding. Like the last 100 pages of the book, I could not put that down. It was so effing good. But because the beginning was so rough, I feel like I honestly have to put it at exceeds expectations. It doesn't get that perfect score just because when almost a third of the book is a slog to get through, it's really hard to say that it was an outstanding book overall. Now, you also might remember that I was currently reading Model Land. It is a 500-page book that should have really been 250 tops, and I'm about another 50 pages through it. It is down at troll, I'll tell you that much. It is so bad, and I still haven't finished it. It's like one of those books that it's difficult to continue reading, just because there's so many other good things out there that it's hard. It's hard to focus, it's hard to stay. So it's still at troll. Hopefully I'll get it done soon because the library is asking for it back. And then I also have The Kingdom of Back, which I'm currently reading. It's by Marie Lu, and I haven't had the best track record with her, but right now it's between exceeds expectation and acceptable. I think I'll keep it as acceptable. I'm about halfway through and I don't mind it. I'm not really feeling any particular love to it, but also I'm not like cringing away in horror like I did a few of her books. We have June's pick for The Plot Thickens, the book club that Tucker the reader and I run. It's a very casual book club. We just pick a book every month and we read it, and we have a live stream at the end of the month. This month we picked out The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, so I won't say too much about it because obviously a lot of you guys haven't read it yet. I'm about 100 pages in, and honestly, it's about outstanding so far, which I was shocked by. I honestly did not expect it to be that good. So many of these companion books just feel like an afterthought. This one feels like it's going to be an integral part of the story. So that's it. That's what I've read. If you have any book suggestions for me for next month, I'm going to be trying to read at least one submitted book from you all each month. And again, shout out to Jana who sent me her book suggestion, and it was honestly such an amazing suggestion. I really appreciate it. I hope you all have a wonderful month full of excellent reads and absolutely no troll books. Have a great day and happy reading. Bye.